Welcome back, everybody, to Catching You. I'm your co-host, Rusty Ham. With me, my beautiful daughter, Lacie. Lacie, say hi.
Hi.
There's a little delay. You're in Puerto Rico, so the internet's not doing so well. So there's going to be a little delay sometimes.
It's
Yeah, so with us, we have a very special guest, Keirstin Roose, played at Coastal Carolina, is now transferring to Georgia. Welcome, Keirstin. How are you?
Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Good, good. We just wanted to get you on because you have a great story. You and Lacie had some similar paths, your journeys, we call it a journey. And we just wanted to touch on a lot of things that you have been doing lately. But let's just start out with the beginning, kind of like when it started.
Gosh, yeah, that's way back when. I don't know when you started, Lacie, but I started like T-ball. So I'd say that's the beginning of my time, around 3. And I've been playing softball ever since. It wasn't always serious. I think I got serious around U12U, started doing travel a lot more, started regionally and then went nationally. And it was definitely got more serious as the time went on and got recruited. We were in the recruiting era where the rules switched like halfway through, so you probably had some friends maybe getting offers or whatnot, and then they implement the rule, and now it's September 1st is when we could start talking to college coaches. So I never talked to a college coach until September 1st, my junior year. And then, long story short, ended up at Coastal because of they recruited me out of Colorado. I think they were there to watch someone else, and then I made a play, grabbed their eye. I emailed them after they contacted me September 1st, asked me to come on a visit, and it's been history since.
Was that the IDT or was that the Sparkcore tournament?
I think it was the IDT.
Yeah, there you go. We went to that many times, many times. Awesome. So the very beginning. So T-ball. I always ask Lace like what her favorite rec ball team name was because those team names were the best. Lace, what's your favorite rec ball team name?
I think I've always said the Cotton Candy Crushers and we were like bright pink, but I think my mom came up with that one
Oh my gosh.
because she was like the manager, right, Dad? Like coach, manager, and she was all into the cool names, nice cheers, and just having fun.
Yeah, she was head coach on record, but not necessarily the coach.
Yeah.
The
She
head
was the
coach.
name creator.
Yeah. So Kirsten,
Mhm.
what was your? I think you said it in one of your episodes. What was one of your favorite rec ball team names?
Oh, you guys got some pups.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. I'm here for the pups. I'd say it's funny because I actually have a couple that I really liked. My first one was Little Scrappers. That's probably the cooler one because my dad owned a junkyard. So we were just the scrapyard girls, like little scrappers. And so we created a little local team. That was like 8U. And then this was, I think, late elementary school, maybe 10, 9, 10. I was trying out for the all-star team or whatever, and then I made the B team. So the all-star team was Earthquake, and the B team was the Aftershock. And so I didn't know it at the time. I was like, oh, cool, Aftershock. And then later I realized, I'm like, dang, that really sucked. I wasn't even on the Earthquake. I was just the aftermath of it. But yeah, those were funny ones.
Yeah. What was your B team name, Lace? It was after a Metallica song, actually. Do you remember it?
You talking to me? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
It's not.
you're
It's working.
That's all right. All right. So you talked about your dad. So let's get into that. This is a father-daughter podcast, right?
Wait, you're having me on the edge of my seat. What was the name? Do you remember?
Ah, gosh, that's why I was asking Lacie.
I thought you were testing her.
Yeah, I was testing her. I was gonna ask my wife real quick. It'll come to me.
Okay, okay.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
It's your sheet. I'm sorry. So let's talk about your relationship with your dad, because my relationship with Lacie early, because she played for the Bat Busters. She was on.
Okay.
She played for Mike Stith at one point. She played for Mark Campbell, who passed away. But early on, she played very competitive travel ball, and I wasn't very nice to her. I was because she was on a high end travel ball team. My expectations of her were like really high, and so when she didn't do well, it reflected bad on me. So I always made sure that she was doing her bullpens and stuff. So your relationship with your dad, just maybe from the beginning and then through travel ball and through college, what was that like?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us softball players have a similar experience with our dads have I don't know about you, but my dad has definitely softened up as I've gotten into college. He's getting sentimental and stuff, and I'm like, wow, he's also a grandpa now. So he's softened up a bit, but I feel like it's been pretty normal. I'm like splitting image of my dad. We're the same person. We're both very analytical, we're very dry, like dry humor. We're both pretty smart people and we can both be socially awkward. I grew out of that, but we both like to ignore our feelings or push them down. So we're very similar in that way. And sometimes we butt heads because of it, because when two people are the same, we can't win an argument because we're both right. But he took me to every single softball practice, softball game. I don't think he missed like anything. I know it kills him to miss some softball games at Coastal because he has a job and he has to do the adult things, but he's been at everything. Like he is the most present person in my life. So I've definitely come to appreciate that more, especially as getting older and stuff, because he wasn't like a yeller or anything, but he was tough on me and it taught me, I think it gave me a good structure to grow off of. But it's like you learn to appreciate it more as you're older because you're like, oh, that it worked.
Where did you guys grow up? We didn't establish where you grew up. I know you went to Coastal Carolina, but where did you?
Yeah, so I'm a Midwest girl. I'm from Indiana. Played ball out of Michigan for the most part, but some out of Indiana too. But
Okay.
yep, Midwest. What about you guys?
We're down here in Southern California. It's called Murrieta.
Okay,
Yeah, near San Diego.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So talk about those 3-hour drives. 'Cause we like Lacie and I. You said the same thing. She would sleep
Uh huh.
while I listened to Howard Stern. I don't know if you know
Mm,
Howard Stern.
yeah.
I would listen to Howard Stern in the morning while she slept, and then when she'd wake up, we'd turn it to her music that she liked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
talk
feel
about
like
3-hour drives and what those were like.
I feel like I'd say a lot of us softball players probably have older music taste too because we're sitting there listening to dad's music. Whenever I would be in the car, I would have this playlist, and it was the music I learned from dad. And whenever I played around other people, they're like, "You know this music?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is all I listen to." But yeah, so we'd get up at gosh, I don't even know, 3:34 in the morning, and I'd hop in the car. I don't fall asleep very quickly after I get up, so I'd be up until we had this rest stop about half hour 40 minutes away from our house where we'd stop. I'd get a gas station hot dog. He'd get some tornadoes, the little things on the rollers, and I'd eat the hot dog, and then by the next hour I'd probably be asleep and my dad'd be either listening to some baseball documentary or listening to all the old classical rock. So we definitely had a good fair share of that. And then also we sometimes went with a friend of mine and her dad. So
Oh,
we'd sometimes carpool that way and I grew up with her. So good
yeah.
time.
Talk about that because people thought we were crazy driving an hour and a half, 5 days a week, 4 days a week, because we were Orange County busters. So we lived
Okay.
out in San Diego. So we'd drive to Orange County, which is about an hour and a half away, for hitting lessons, for pitching lessons, for my friend always says, "Hey, you're gonna go to Iran to do pitching lessons?" Because we were always,
Like if I
um,
have to.
yeah. So early on rec ball and maybe early on in travel, you were local, right? I'm assuming.
Mm.
When and why did you guys decide to make that move to, hey, we need to upgrade where we're playing or who we're playing with, and then make that commitment because it is a commitment. And then we talked about the social aspect of missing out on a lot of things because of these things that you're doing. So talk about that.
I think as a kid, you don't really realize like the commitment that it is. You're just kind of, oh, this is fun, especially in the beginning. It's new, it's exciting. I think we decided, I think I was around 11 is when I joined the Michigan Bulldogs, which was out of Detroit, about 3 hours from us. I want to say for Christmas one year, I got a USSSA tryout like ticket for Christmas. And so we went to the tryout, the Midwest tryout, made the team, ended up playing at the ESPN Wide World of Sports or whatever in Florida. I'm sure that's
Oh
a
yeah,
shared experience.
yeah.
and then met some girls there who played on like finesse and I think bulldogs. I can't remember, but then I ended up playing with some of them on bulldogs. I feel like that's what brought me to bulldogs is parents talking and figuring it out, and my dad realizing we need to go play better teams and whatnot. So we went to bulldogs. But yeah, you don't quite realize the commitment until kind of near the end, especially in high school. I feel like I never really realized how I was missing out in the summers until I was in high school and all my friends were like going out and going to the lake and hanging out with each other outside. And I can appreciate it now because I obviously am where I am, but in it, I was definitely like, dang, I wish I could hang out with my friends in the summer. But then, and my parents were like, your friends are your softball friends. And I definitely agreed, but I'm like, oh, but what about my school friends? And I definitely appreciate it though, because that's how college is. I have zero NARP friends. I'm just with my softball team, and we're all like sisters.
NARP friend. We had a big debate at, I think it was Thanksgiving. We introduced NARP to the rest of the family, and they're like, "Oh, is that?"
I promise I mean it in no derogatory term.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just what we call the normal people.
We call my son he plays golf, so we call him an ARP. He's an athletic. We call him an ARP. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so the travel, because we have a lot of people listening that are young girls, and they're deciding right now when to join travel. We joined right out of 8U All-Stars. So she was 9 years old when we joined the Orange County Blockbusters, which some people might think that's way, way too young. So I'm not sure what your opinion is on that. But yeah, it really socially, it was just weekend after weekend was just softball, and she missed out on a ton of things now, which is weird because her friends in middle school and high school were non-athletes. They were not. They were like her best friends didn't play any sports at all, and she's always had that kind of affection towards people that she just gravitated toward people that not necessarily were like-minded, because they're like-minded people. You guys would just hang out with just softball people. Just She just hung out with people that just weren't athletes, and I think she really enjoyed that. Speaking of being an athlete, you played multiple sports, which is, especially in high school, I can't imagine you playing. I listened to one of your podcast episodes, but we're going to get into what podcast you're doing right now in a little bit. But describe being a multi-sport athlete, and how that's prepared you for what you're doing now.
I am a firm believer and lover of multi-sport. And to answer your other question of my opinion on starting at 9 years old, for example, I'm here for it as long as the athlete wants to, because you'll see those girls who are only there because their parents want them there, and that's just not going to get very far. I do lessons with girls like that sometimes, and it's like they're not really into it. It's just not fun for either of us. But I'd say if the athlete's into it, do it, but also let them do the other sports. There's no reason you should be needing to specialize at such a young age. And even I'm a firm believer of doing multi sports in high school, as I have done. I think it makes you so much more athletic. To list off the sports, I did golf, so I was an ARP, but I did golf and soccer at the same time. So that was golf is easy on the body, hard on the mind. I actually hated it so much. It made me so mad. And I actually only did that my freshman year because after golf season, that fall ball, I batted, I think, 100, and my dad's like, you're never doing golf again. Okay, fair. I didn't really like it anyway. It was so frustrating. It just slice off of every ball. But golf and soccer in the fall, I had to just kind of choose. I went to most of my like soccer games and then golf matches when I could. But then, and those were varsity. I was like the fifth person on varsity. I think it was because there weren't really any other options. There was no way. I was the best choice. And then I played basketball in the winter, and then in the spring I played track and softball. And track, I really liked track. I was actually very good at discus. I just did the meets on like Saturday mornings, and if we had a doubleheader on a Saturday, I would just miss that or go to the doubleheader after the meet. I just had to triage it. So from an early age, I learned how to manage my schedule. We would print out my calendars, and I would have to choose what I wanted to do. And I like highlighted each one and then I combined them. And so I also had a recruiting agency who helped us figure out our calendar and scheduling and time management. And I think that was a great skill. But sports teach you so much. And I would even talk about with discus, like the same movements of the torque and like pulling through it. It was the same movement as hitting. And while golf ruined my swing, I think it's good to be versatile and to be able to adapt to any situation just makes you so athletic. Basketball definitely got me in shape. Soccer, I became a better runner, stronger, faster. It's just, they all helped for sure.
Yeah, we're a firm believer. When I used to teach PE, and my mentor said, get him into gymnastics right away.
Oh, yeah.
As early as you can, get him in gymnastics just for body control and stuff like
For
that.
sure.
Yeah, I have the same feeling about golf. It's a love-hate relationship. I just got my wife into it, and at 48 years old, she just started golf, so I'm sure she's going through those trials and tribulations of chunking the ball every once in a while and getting upset. And yeah, so very cool. Yeah, multi-sport athlete for sure. She played volleyball and softball mostly during high school. Socially, though, because you're doing so much, and I think you said you're also academically, you were doing really well too. I'm sure you did some academic clubs or whatever. I'm not sure what it
Literally
is,
everything I could.
whatever. Yeah. So socially, was that a hindrance? Was it no big deal? Talk about that a little bit.
I feel like that was my social life. There was one point where, I don't know, my high school resume was crazy. Like, I don't use it anymore because I have other accolades, but I was like, president of the class, president of student council, president of National Honor Society, president of DECA. And alongside of, I mean, I didn't play 5 sports my senior year because I tore my ACL junior year and just stuck to softball. So I had a lot more time. But I think that because all my friends were at school and I never really cared to, I don't know, do the distracting things that everyone was doing because it was also ingrained in my brain that like if you want to go D1 or you want to maintain your scholarship, you have to act accordingly. And we had fun and I went to like my friends' houses and I think I learned to manage it. And for sure I felt left out at times, especially because I didn't have a phone till like my sophomore year of high school, I think. And so I was always the kid with the book at dinner while everyone had their phones. And while I hated that at the time, like I can actually appreciate it now because seeing how social media and everything can just take over people's lives. And now it's consumed my life because I'm trying to make a living off of it. But it's crazy to see the influences. And I can appreciate how I was brought up. In the time, sometimes it made me so mad. I'm like, this isn't fair. My parents are strict. Like, everyone else gets to do whatever they want, but that's not always what we need. So I can appreciate it now.
Yeah, very cool. Let's go back to the high school sports because down here, some of the coaches are very particular. They want their player with them all the time. So it sounds like you were in a situation where the coaches are like super supportive, almost like your Coastal Carolina coaches, where they're super supportive of what you're trying to accomplish, which is cool. They're just like, yeah, you don't have to go to practice. You can go to your match. And just come on Saturday to the soccer game and we're good. So just maybe touch on that aspect where you just had super good, super awesome support from just the school in general.
I've been super blessed with an awesome support system. And it also helps growing up in a super small town. Like I graduated with 98 kids. So small. And so the 5 sports, it was more doable that way because everyone knew each other. And I think the biggest part of how it was easy to be supportive was just communicating in the beginning, setting standards and just laying it all out in the beginning, being completely open about what my priority was and what I could make and what I couldn't make. I think luckily they were just happy that I was able to be there because the track coach knew that if like I wanted to, I could just play softball and they're just happy to have me when they could. And the softball coach, everyone knows each other in a small town. So everyone was just thankful. And I think not burning bridges also helped, just being active in the community, whatever. People don't mind doing things for a good kid, basically. And then coastal coaches with the same support. I think the relationship I've built with them over 4 years, it's definitely helped because, like I said, I'm super blessed with people that want me to succeed and I've just been super open and honest with them throughout every process. And I find that the open and honest communication, it works miracles. Even though it may be hard, it is definitely important.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the very end with the transfer portal and how honest you were with, I believe it was South Carolina. Yeah, because down here, Lacey's graduating class was 500. So there's
A bit different.
and a lot of the coaches down here in SoCal, it's the hoarders. They just want their athletes all the time. I was the head basketball coach at her high school, and we shared me and the football coach shared athletes. But it was difficult, right? Because in the summertime, he's trying to prepare for fall, but I'm also trying to implement some stuff for basketball. I want them to be there to maybe I have a new play I want to, so we had to share, right? And it was difficult at times because he wanted them to prepare them for fall, but I wanted them to get them prepared for winter. So it is tough when you have a school or coaches that aren't like that, which is cool. I'm glad you were able to do that. You mentioned your ACL injury. I don't know if I told you, Lacie got a comebacker in first year 14. So she was with Mark Campbell. This is, you talked about it before we got on. This is before the rules, right? This is where first year 14s, I think you're familiar with it, that everybody was getting recruited.
Yeah.
She played with Reagan Walsh. I don't know if you knew who she is.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
She was on the same team with Reagan Walsh. She committed to Florida in 8th grade.
Okay.
When Lacie was playing with her. We had a couple girls. There was another girl that committed to Oregon. And Lacie was pitching, but she's in practice. They're getting ready to go to, I think it was New Jersey. And she threw a changeup to Amber Tovin. She played played at Baylor.
Yeah.
She threw a changeup to Amber. They were just doing a practice game. She threw a changeup, and Amber just right back to the side of her head, cracked it. So she's out all summer during this huge recruiting year. And so she had to take the whole summer off, which kind of screwed everything up. Just so mentally, and you've talked about this in your podcast, and the reason why you're doing your podcast, and we'll get into that a little bit, is mental health, right? Especially with injuries, because injuries could really screw you up mentally. And it screwed her up, right? When she came back, balls are whizzing by her head, and she's PTSD, right? She's crying.
Sure.
She's running off the field like, I can't do this anymore. So describe, because I think you injured it early, but you were trying to play on it. I don't know. Describe that, and then describe being out and then having to come back, and that mental fortitude you had to have.
Yeah, injuries suck. And no matter how big or how small, they suck. My ACL wasn't my first injury. I'd say my first real injury was I tore my PCL freshman year, which is the opposite ligament of the ACL. And that was non-surgical, but I had to be off of it and do rehab and whatever. That one was okay because I just missed part of basketball season, and then I was back for softball. The ACL was the first real one, but thankfully, with both the ACL and the diabetes, the timing was perfect. I couldn't have had better timing with these terrible things. So ACL was junior year, a basketball season, November 9th. I could probably tell you the certain time of day. I tore it within the first 8 minutes of the game, and I didn't know I tore it. They went in and did the test, and apparently it wasn't moving too much, and they're like, oh, you pulled your hamstring. So I was like, okay, and sat out a couple weeks and rehabbed it. Then I slapped a knee brace on it and just went back in, and every game I would plant and my leg would give out, or I would go up for a layup, my leg would give out, and I had no clue what was going on. I just knew it really hurt when it happened. My entire leg just seized up, and I learned that was the body's protective mechanism, is all the muscles cramp. And so November 9th is when I tore it. January 25th is when I got my MRI, and the MRI came back and it was completely severed, completely torn, pulled off some of the bone, just floating around in there. And I'm like, and that was actually a gutting feeling to get told that. I remember I was standing in the hall at our basketball game. Our trainer came out. He's, hey, we got your results and you tore your ACL. And I just started bawling. I was like this, because I'd heard of ACL tears and people just not coming back right from them, and all of the bad thoughts start to come in, and it was just awful.
Yeah.
I remember putting makeup on over my eyes. Luckily, I had makeup with me because I was so splotchy from crying because I had to go back out to the basketball game. I wasn't playing, of course. They were like, yeah, you can't play. But then this is junior year, I decided, I was like, well, if I played basketball on it, I can definitely DH. So I'm over here trying to like find a way to play. And I was already committed to Coastal at this point. I actually committed to Coastal right before I tore my ACL. And committed to Coastal. I'm like, okay, I'll DH. And talking to Coastal about it and talking with their trainer, and we had a Zoom, and ultimately they were like, you need to like not DH. You need to get surgery. We want you back and healthy as quick as possible so then you can start building strength back, whatever. If they hadn't said that, and if I had DH'd or tried to, I would have lost the opportunity to get surgery and to play in season because COVID. I had surgery March 12th, and that was the last day in the hospital of optional surgeries. And so if I decided to not get surgery, I would have been screwed both ways because I wouldn't have been able to play and I wouldn't have been able to get surgery. Right. So luckily I got surgery right at the beginning of COVID. I was still able to go to PT because it was COVID, and I had all the time in the world. So I was doing my exercises at home. I started getting into like fitness. I created a fitness account. I found every hobby I could. And so it sat me down and slowed me down with the rest of the world. So luckily it was good timing, I like to say, because then I had the whole year. I decided not to do soccer. My coach was like trying to get me to do soccer, and I'm like, that is way too soon. I didn't do basketball because I've gotten hurt so much in basketball. And then I had a whole year to recover for softball.
Yeah, basketball is, because again, like I said, I coached basketball for over 30 years. And the high school that I went to, they called it ACL Hair Central because it just for some reason, females are always tearing the ACLs.
We love to do it.
It's always on rebounds too. They go up for a rebound, and all of a sudden they come down with the ACL.
I was actually going up for a layup, but it was like a jump stop into a layup, and the turn just popped it as I was jumping up.
Fundamentals, man. The fundamentals got you.
Yeah.
Fundamentals got you in sniper.